Hi, everybody. I'm George Martorano. I'm on the Break It Down show. Happy to be here. My
Yeah,
story is very different. I think it's one of a kind. Matter of fact, Pete, I'm doing a stage play here in Philadelphia. First ever stand up play from an ex gangster. Never been done before in America. So, and that's
man, that's
documented. So, it's,
it's it's an amazing time that anybody can become a storyteller in a large format. You and I are doing that here right now. I used to be a spy. You worked on the criminal side of things and went through this process. Mike Tyson is no longer just Mike Tyson, the rapist. He's become this
right.
wise person, right? And so we can have these redemption paths. We can go through terrible things and come out the other side and tell stories. But a stage play is really an interesting thing. What was the pitch meeting like for that? I mean, when you go to pitch and like, hey, I want to use some stage time and I want to tell the story, how
Well,
was that?
fortunately, I got very well known for our first big project, which is Life No Parole, the George Martorano story. And that's on videomo.com on demand. So that was my first major film uh, getting out of prison. We incidentally, Pete, we won the we won the Tully Award in LA,
Mm.
and we done the Fresh Film Festival here in Phoenixville. We won every award in that festival. We won 3 awards, which I was a little concerned about that because I think some other films runner-ups were pretty good. If I would have won one award, I would have been happy. But we won every 3 awards: best film, best director, best story. So it's a life, yeah, George Martorano, the Life No Parole story.
And for everybody watching, there's the link right there to Vimeo where that's at. Just type in his name
Right,
and it's going to come up. It's pretty
right.
simple. Yeah, that ability to write. Did you have that before you were given your life sentence?
No, no, I'd never written anything. It's just that I spent 5 years in solitary. When they put the cuffs on me, I didn't never even had a parking ticket. I was a nonviolent first offender. They put the cuffs on me in 1983, September 19th, 1983, and I didn't. I was in from that day. I was in solitary for 5 years. So not to lose my mind, I became active as a writer. I wrote over 2 million words freehand. I don't think it's ever been done before. I have all on hard drive. Incidentally, I'm trying to negotiate something in China. If you get an ebook in China and do as well, I mean, you could sell an ebook for like 20 cents a book, and you'll make an awful lot of money. So I'm working on that, and I became a writer by necessity because I was in solitary, and people say it's totally legal. They gave me life, no parole, ladies and gentlemen out there. Life, no parole means you come home in a body bag. So and then they continue relentlessly to punish me, kept punishing me, shipping around the worst holes known to man. Of course, it was legal. There's a Supreme Court case called the Robert Strauss decision. Robert Strauss was the Birdman of Alcatraz, a
Yep.
great movie with Burt Lancaster. You cannot sentence somebody to solitary. So what they did is they kept moving me about every 6 months, horrendous jails. They got away with it mostly in the South. So I had to ride with that. And, rather than lose my mind, I did a lot of physical exercise and an awful lot of writing. And then as the years went by, when I when the prison authorities got to know who I was personally, I became a prolific teacher. I was a mentor educator, and I graduated over 8,000 inmate students. And that was a deciding
Yeah.
factor upon my release. 8,000.
When you get a sentence, life without parole, I mean, you have to have done something, right? Like that's what we're all thinking. Why were they so strict with you? First time offender, never even a parking ticket. What connection do
Well, you
you
got to look.
have?
You got to look at the full spectrum of my upbringing life. We had 3 mob wars here in Philly, back to back. Over 80 guys were killed from Philly up to Newark, and I wasn't involved in that. My father was. Father was a gangster. I was just a guy selling weed, but they had no arrest after 3 mob wars. No arrest.
Mm.
I was young, a bunch of young guys. I was a knucklehead. I fell on a weed case, and Washington, for some reason, said, "Okay, squeeze him," and they squeezed him. What they did to me was insane, and I wrote it out. 32 plus years, and I don't know how I'm alive. Incidentally, I like to share with everybody. I'll be 75 on the 21st of December. And back in those days in prison and solitary, if you had to say that I was going to live to be 75, I said, "You're nuts."
You're crazy. Yeah.
Nuts.
Well, happy birthday, because I probably won't talk to you then. I
Yeah.
appreciate you coming on and celebrating with us. The life without parole, that has to settle in over and over again with you. You're like, I'm really never getting out of here. I'm really never getting out of here. And did
Well,
you have any kind of, yeah.
I was the 4th person in America to get it. The 3 before me were repeated violent offenders. One was a buddy of mine, Herbie Sperling.
Mm.
He was a driver for Murder Incorporated when he was a kid. And I was the first person in the state of Pennsylvania to get, they didn't use that sentence, life, no parole, because they felt it was too harsh. Actually, it was written in the law in the Nixon administration, but they didn't use it. And then they started using it. And like I said, I was the first person in Pennsylvania. Actually, I beat the case the first time. Beat it. And they gave it to me again. Again, never been done before in a federal courtroom. How can you beat the case and give it to me again? So it became a very insane personal. I had a personal thing with the federal government here in Philadelphia. Personal thing. And they just didn't know why they couldn't break me. They just couldn't figure out why they couldn't break me. And
So your dad's association with the mob is part of what contributes to your long sentence?
yeah,
And again, you're just a dude in the mob.
was Raymond Long. His nickname was Long John. He was a top gangster, big earner in the city. And my judge was, they accused my father of killing this union guy, and it was the judge's best friend. So I was like, I didn't have a chance. The judge hated me. Washington was very hard on the FBI here in Philly because they were arresting nobody. And it was just that for some reason, the heavens chose to bring down the wrath upon me. And believe me, Pete, you have no idea. You have no idea what I went through. No idea.
I did a series with a bunch of guys who had committed murder, and we're going to go to jail for the rest of our life, at least as far as they knew. And they ultimately all got out and they rehabilitated themselves. But one of them was a guy named Shaka Senghor, and he did years and years and years in solitary. And he went on a tour of prisons after he got out, and he was in Europe. And he was telling, I think he was in Germany, and he was telling them, yeah, I did all these years in solitary. And the person was like, why would your country ever do that to somebody? Why would they put them in a room by themselves, and expect them to not come out damaged? It was, it was such a different approach. When you look at your time at solitary, is there anything that you gained of value through that time that would justify that kind of
well, bottom line is you learn patience. One thing you learn is patience, because you ain't going nowhere. You got your 4 walls. You go to sleep with 4 walls. You wake up with 4 walls. So, but I'm proud to say I did I couldn't say I was the first ever, but I did the impossible. I made myself known to the world, writing hard copy to the world. Short stories, poetry, things like that. So either it's going to destroy you or you make it out of there. There's no way, fans or buts. It's going to destroy you or you make it out. I've seen it destroy so many men. And incidentally, Pete, when we talk about prison, you got to remember it's a woman's things too. There's women incarcerated that suffer.
Right. Yeah. Man, you were talking to one of the shows I saw about how you just got a pencil and just started writing on the walls.
Oh, yeah, that was a rough one.
Yeah.
Uh,
You didn't
I,
even have light. Yeah,
yeah,
dig into that for me.
yeah. I was designated to Marion, Illinois, the worst prison in America at the time, and I get there in November of 1984, and they just had killed two guards 2 months prior, brutally killed them. And we were labeled Marion. If you were a Marion prisoner, you were labeled the worst of the worst. So I had a ride with all that. Every time I went out on writ or left the prison, I was tortured, literally tortured, uh, because we were known as killers of guards. I didn't kill any guard. It was a guy named Silverstein. He killed the guard. Another guy named Fountain. But when there was only 370 guys in Marion, so if you left that institution and you went anywhere as a prisoner, you were hated. They tried to kill me. It was a county jail. I think it was in Missouri or Kansas. I don't know, county jail. And they took me and they put me in a condemned part of the prison. I don't know if you know what a boxcar cell is.
Mm-hmm.
Boxcar cell is a solid steel, no window with two steel doors. It was a condemned unit because they had a hole in the floor where you had to relieve yourself. There wasn't even a toilet or sink, and there was a break like a clutch that released the water. And as a Marion prisoner, they figured that I'd throw him down there. I mean, you went down 2 flights of stairs and this dingy prison chair. No one's there. They had a few cells, and they throw me in this boxcar cell, and no one has been down there for years. And naturally, they have to feed you. They feed you like an animal because the boxcar cells don't have any food slots. They have a little square at the bottom of the door, little hinge, and they push your food in with a stick like you're an animal. But no one told me them cells weren't used in a long time, and that food brought rats in through that hole. You relieve yourself, and those rats, and I literally fought rats. It was so dark. Well, the worst thing about it, I was on there. The light bulb went out the second day. They had a string with a light bulb, and the light bulb went out, and I couldn't see. And I'm yelling for a light bulb and this and that, and they didn't care. They literally want me to kill me. So now I hear this noise and this scraping, and then you couldn't see the rats until they were right on you because it was so dark. And good thing I had the bus shoes in my hands, and I'm fighting these rats. I fought them for 2 days, and I was very exhausted. I think when I pass out, these rats are going to bite the hell out of me. But one guard had compassion. You know what his compassion was, Pete? A bucket to put over the hole so the rats couldn't get to me. So I lived there for a long time. In dark, you start losing your mind. You don't know what day it is. And when the food came through the slot one time, I was on my knees and I caught through a little light. I seen a pencil under the bunk. So I got the pencil and I started writing. And I used to sharpen it with my teeth. I had to eat lead.
Jeez. Yeah.
And I started writing all over the cell, writing poetry and writing this and that, just not to lose my mind. And when they finally let me out of there, weeks went by anyway, I heard the guard said, "Oh, he wrote all over the cell. He wrote all over the cell." And that's what you had to live with it. And that's only half of it. Then they stuck me in a criminally insane unit, Springfield, Illinois, because I was a Marion prisoner. And the criminal insane unit was some hard time. So you got nothing, when you got life, no parole, you're dying in jail. So what's your recourse? Your recourse is to survive. That's your only recourse.
Yeah. How long were you in the boxcar cell? Do you know how long it was?
I lost count days. I lost count. I don't know, 2-3 weeks. I don't know. And then I fell around the holidays. So when you're in transit and holidays, the marshals just leave you. They're not worried about me. They're going to enjoy their holidays. And that was that experience. And then, like I said, the criminally insane unit in Springfield, Illinois, was another nightmare. For 2 months, they had me in the criminally insane unit, and they actually had me leg iron to the bunk. Leg iron, the only thing could reach the flat in the toilet. I lived 2 months.
It all just seems so impossibly cruel. I mean, okay, one thing to go to prison, but to be in solitary and then having to fight. Look, it's unsanitary to not, to have to fight off rats and not to be able to. Yeah.
Well, they wanted to kill anybody who had a Marion designation to be a Marion prisoner. They wanted to kill you because these nuts, they killed these guards brutally. It's documented. A guy named Silverstein, a guy named Fountain. So I got there 2 months after all that, and I just got caught up in it all. And you had to ride with it. I don't know how I'll be 75 Saturday. Yeah. Back then I was only in my 30s, young 30s. So I don't know how I survived all these years. Don't know.
When you were talking to, did you have any kind of family or friends that visited you when you're telling them this? How does that impact them?
Never complained. Never complained once on the phone, never complained once in a letter, never told anybody what they were doing to me, never. My mother would lost her mind. I never, I figured this is it, You draw the line. You had to draw the line within your own soul, your own mind, your own courage. You had to draw the line. And you died. They tried to kill me one time. I think it was Terre Haute. I was in transit, and when you're in transit as a Marion prisoner, you could be 500 guys moving in transit unit, but they keep you by yourself, locked in by yourself. Mm-hmm. It was Terre Haute in transit. I'm sitting in a bullpen waiting to go somewhere, get chained up, go somewhere. And they put a guy in the cell. I think he was the ugliest human being known to man. His nickname was Chicken Lips. Anyway, he came in the cell and he's looking around the cell and I'm watching him. I don't know who he is. And a buddy of mine, Herbie Sperling, he was one of the first 3 to get life, no parole. I explained to him he was a driver for Murder Incorporated. He sees me, he knows me, and he started yelling, screaming, banging on the door and the glass. Get him out of there, get him out of there. He's in there with Chicken Lips. I didn't know who Chicken Lip was. But the reason they put Chicken Lips in there was to kill me by the guards. As soon as he walked in the cell, I noticed he was looking around. What he's looking around, he's looking under things and he's trying to see if the knife's there. And he did that. I don't know whatever happened to him, but they tried to kill me there for no reason. Other than I was a American prisoner.
So day to day, you're not causing problems for the guards then. You're asking for a life.
In 32 plus years, I have the most stellar record in the history of the Bureau of Prisons. Stellar record. Yeah. There wouldn't be, you heard the word reentry?
Yeah.
Well, I created reentry. I created the whole reentry system, okay? I don't know if you know the skills programs in the federal Bureau. I created all that. I did all that, but I never took credit. I always had the warden. It wasn't for me, there wouldn't be reentry in America. But anybody thinks they're going to outshine a warden is but a fool. So I made the wardens take all the credit, but that's the skills program is the most funded. Bureau of Prison operates right now, Federal Bureau of Prison, about 12 billion. And out of that, those billions, a big portion of that is the skills program.
Let's go back to when you get into the insane ward. What is that daily condition like? Are you in a room?
I was in Marion, and this unit manager felt a little sorry for me because he said, you're nonviolent first offender. You're not supposed to be here. So what we're going to do, we're going to send you to Springfield to do a psychiatric evaluation. And if they feel you're deteriorating because you're a nonviolent first offender in the worst institution in America, we'll transfer you. Big mistake. I went along with it. I said, yeah, okay, big mistake. What they did to me in Springfield, as soon as you hit there, you're all chained up. They took me to criminal insane unit. They strip you down, and they give you paper clothes. Your clothes are paper. Your garments are paper. Everything's paper. And your bedding is paper. The reason is that because they don't want you using your clothes to hang yourself. Even though the cells are extra, the ceiling's very high. And like I said, they put a leg iron on my left ankle, and I only can reach the toilet or the food slot. And I did a summer of '85 in the criminal insane unit, and they had this treatment. It's called Dr. Stark, STARK. This Dr. Stark treatment. What they do is they want to see if you're going to be violent. They put you through this horrific thing, like they'll bring you all your food. By law, they have to give you 3 meals. They'll bring you all your meals in the middle of the night, frozen. And then they'll chain you up, take you to a shower. It's a little cage, really. They keep the leg irons, the handcuffs on you, and they throw you in a shower on the cold water. I stood on the cold water for hours, which made me I'm a cold plunger till today. And
I like it in here.
Yeah, well, that's what they do. They listen. People don't understand. Once you have a number, you're not a person anymore. You have a prison number, and it's still prison today. It's still not that nice. You still in federal system. You still have 85%. Nothing has changed. That 85% of your time in a lot of these states. So with this Biden administration, you didn't hear one word about prison reform. Not one word. I don't know what's going to happen with the next administration, but not one word. He pardoned a bunch of people. But that's not my life anymore. Thank God. I'm doing very other productive things in business and such.
Going back to the insane ward, were you in your own room? Are you in a cell? How does that? Because I'm picturing like a hospital ward, right, with beds and nurses. And
you're in a cell. You're in a cell by yourself, and that's it. And don't ever believe that about when there's a full moon. It's fictional. Because I was there 2 months in the summer of 1985, and when there was a full moon, that unit went off. That unit went off. I don't know how many were in the unit. It was a big cell block. Everybody was single. They're screaming and howling and things. So I'm a believer in full moons. Matter of fact, when there's a full moon, I try to watch myself.
Would anybody fake it to try to be in the insane ward, or is it a miserable experience?
No, you don't fake that word. Believe me. I got wrecked one time, inside wreck, which was it's like cages, 3 small cages, about 10 by 10. And they stuck me in the middle. And I was just so happy to be out of that leg iron. And, I'm working out, always worked out, good shape. I'm doing burpees and push-ups. And they put another guy in to my left, and they put another guy in to my right. There was only 3 cages. And I noticed this one guy, I don't know if it was the right or left. Everything I did, he did. Every time I moved, he moved. Every time I did a push, I say, "Hey, what's up with you?" He said, "He's trying to shoot me." I says, "Who?" The guy on the other side. They're so ingenious, these prisoners. He made a zip gun out of a radio aerial. He made a zip gun. And he's trying to shoot this guy. This guy was his enemy. That's why the guy was following me. The zip gun, they make it out of it's like an aerial from a radio. They have a rubber band, and they make the gunpowder. They make the gunpowder from matches, and they get a coin. I don't know what the coin. They scrape the nickel. They get I forget the mineral name, and they make the gunpowder, and then they stick a screw. And this guy's trying to shoot the other guy. Anyway, I finally dove down real quick, and I hear pow, and he shot the guy, hit him on the shoulder with a screw. So that was my wreck. That was my wreck in a criminal insane unit.
That's That's crazy. How did you end up getting out of the criminally insane unit? Did
Well, I did the Stark
evaluation?
program. They had to put me
Yeah.
through the Stark program, and there was a mob guy there. I don't know if you ever heard of Fat Tony Salerno. He was a good friend of mine.
Mm-hmm.
Mob boss for over 40 years. He was in the institution, another section of it, and he sent this lieutenant that he knew. He says, "Go tell." They call me Georgie. That's my name. The mob calls me George. Go tell them they're going to give him this treatment and tell them to ride. In other words, don't go off. Because if they go, that's what they want you to do. They want you to go off, try to attack them, try to threaten them. So I had to be very patient to go through the Stark treatment, but it ain't nothing nice. Not nice. And when I finally got done after 2 months, I had to see this psychologist, to clear me out of there. And I'm all chained up and I'm talking to him. And he wanted, for some reason, he wanted to check what time it was. Guess where the watch was? And on his ankle.
Oh.
He looked at his ankle to see what time it was. And I'm saying, they think I'm nuts.
Yeah. Right. Along the way, you must have had appeals. I mean, ultimately, you get out of prison.
Well, nobody
What
has
was it
no appeals to me. I had 32 appeals. I'm the most appealed federal prisoner to date. Nobody.
Yeah. Right. And so did you have hope with these appeals? Was it nice to at least get out of the prison and go to court?
I don't know. I'm just one of the guys that it's inside me. I don't quit, never give up. I got myself out of jail. I created my own case law, and which is very hard to do. I created my own case law in another circuit in New York City, and I won that for a guy, and then I brought it into the Third Circuit. Took 4 years. So I'm very good with federal law out of necessity.
Right. What is that case law? What does it look like when you're
that case was the Holloway case?
Okay.
Which is two-prong. Basically, it's two-prong. You had to be languishing in prison, and you had to have a good prison record. And I brought that case to the Second Circuit and won, but they never would let it go. What's the right word? Into law. It was always done under seal, which they didn't want the case revealed because it would open a floodgate. And the same with when I brought it to the Third Circuit. They always kept it under seal. That's how evil they are. It could have helped a lot of people get out, but they're very evil. Very evil.
Yeah. Yeah. When it did break out, did the floodgates open, and was it successful, or was it a bad decision?
Well, they kept it on the seal. That means they're not releasing it to the law books.
But I mean, you got it into law, though, right?
I argued with my lawyers. No, could never get it in the law books. I argued with my lawyers. They said, "George, you're going to get some relief real soon." I says, "No, I want it published in the law book so it could help other people." We argued for weeks, me and my lawyers. Said, "George, you can get out." And I said, "What's the good getting out if I can't help all these other poor souls?" So we went back, and finally, my lawyer and my family, they wore me down, and I agreed to get released under seal.
But it took you 32 years.
That's the way it is. That's the way it is. Either,
yeah.
Well, I do a lot of advocate work. I do a lot of speaking to young people, and I tell them, listen, if you want to throw your life away, this state or federal government will take it.
Yeah. Did you ever become accustomed to prison? I mean, after 30 years, 3 decades. I mean,
it's called institutionalized. I actually physically saw that more than once. I seen one guy was in Lewisburg Federal Penitentiary, and the black guy was supposed to go home, and he actually went in front of the cell block with these sets of bars and wrapped himself with his legs and his arms within this bars. They couldn't get him. Just go home. Couldn't get him. Go home. I seen that twice in my incarceration.
Wow, that's crazy.
Institutionalization. Yeah. Thank God I didn't get that bad. Thank God. But that is a real situation. Institutionalization. That's a real emotional situation.
The people that you met in prison, I mean, you help all these people graduate from things, all this work that you do, you must have just a zillion friends in and out of the prison system.
Yeah, yes and no. But when I came home, I had nothing, So I had a life. I had a daughter. I kept my advocate work isolated. We still do it. I will help a prisoner, he or she, but before I even get involved with you, I want to see your progress report. Every 6 months in prison, whether state or fed, you get a progress report, which tells you what you've been doing as a prisoner, what you've been doing, taking classes, getting in trouble, not getting in trouble. So once I read your progress report, then I'll decide whether to get involved with your case.
Right. Right. What does it look like when you get involved? Like, how are you helping those guys?
Just tell them direction, how to get out. Right now, the system's still screwed up. You still do 85%. But I look at it in a different light. I know how to look at cases in a different light. I got one guy out after 22 years by just writing a letter. I wrote a letter to his judge, and he got a docket number. You can, whether you're in state or fed, you're not getting into any courtroom for relief unless which is called a docket number. You have to have a docket number. So once you get a prisoner's docket number, then he's got a shot. That doesn't mean he's going to walk, but just getting a docket number is hard. It's hard. Like I said, it's still prevalent in America today. If you're a prisoner, you're at the bottom of the totem pole. And then you see all this turmoil in the news. It doesn't help. To get any sympathy to be helped. Doesn't help.
Is there any part of the system that you think works to help rehabilitate or punish and correct through those behaviors?
Well, yeah. I mean, like I said, I created reentry program, which you're 36 months short to the door. And what happened, Pete, in 1992, this idiot congressman, I think his name was Zimmerman, took away the Pell Grants out of the prison. And Pell Grants, I mean, when you got your GED, you were to go take college courses. Back then, all the prisons, federal prisons, had community college attached around the whole country. And you had these professors came in and taught you. Well, they took that away. So now after you got your GED, they're telling you, okay, you have to go distant learning, where you would take college courses, which wasn't cheap. Could run $800-900 or more. These guys ain't got the money to do distant learning. And through distant learning, you have to teach yourself. It's very difficult. I mean, I stood in front of classrooms for over 30 years, so I know how to teach people. So you're telling the guy to do distant learning, he's not going to get it. So I just happened to have a warden at that time, early 90s, I had a rapport with, and I said, it's not fair. You're telling the guy to stop educating himself. So we fought for 4 years. We wrote a letter, and we finally created the reentry program. And that's big today, very big. I'm very proud of that.
Before you got arrested, you're dealing weed and everything. Could you have imagined that you'd be a teacher more than you were a guy who sold weed? I mean, decades of teaching, that's remarkable.
Well, I was an individual, just didn't want to stagnate, I just, especially in my mind. There was one class that I did that was called the Pit. It was for prisoners that mostly had life. They're stabbing guys. They're selling drugs. They're waiting in the hole. Sometimes the hole got so full that to go to ADX is the worst prisons, federal prisons, is Florence, ADX, and Marion, ADX. Florence only holds 500, and Marion only holds 300. So what happens is you get backed up in the hole. Guys just sit in the hole over 2 years before he can get to these lockdown facilities. So I went to this one warden. I says, warden, listen, why don't we give these guys one last chance?
Right.
So I created this classroom called the Pit. Actually, they gave me a big cell at the end of this. It was a penitentiary in Florida. gave me this big cell, and I used to have folding chairs in there. I could seat about 7 or 8. And I used to, blackboard was a wall, and I used to buy my own blue soap from the commissary so I could write on the wall and teach these guys. And I told them, this is your last shot. Your last shot. If you get a shit, and the class wasn't, was a 6-month class. And I used to run all kind of programs. I told them, this is your last shot. If not, you're going to go rot in ADX for some of these guys got to do 5 years or more. So proud of that class. It was one of my, you had to leave your knife. Don't bring a knife in my classroom. Well, literally, I had to tell them, no knives in the classroom. These guys had life sentences, gang members, I'm trying to give you your last shot. And the class was successful. And then I would go to the ward and I said, listen, we can't give him any reward. He's dying in jail. He has a life sentence. Well, at least after he graduates to Pitt, consider sending him closer to home where he can get the visits. So proud of that. It's called the Pitt.
Yeah. These guys that end up in prison for long term, are they criminals? I mean, how do they develop themselves? So in my series that I did, they were saying that these guys at San Quentin. By the way, San Quentin had a lot of resources because it was right there on the bay. Like it literally has bayfront property. And so all of these tech guys could spend money and work on rehabilitation. If you were in the prison on the other side of the state up in the mountains, you had no access to that because you have to get to that prison, you have to leave the state of California. You have to go into Nevada and then drive back into California to get to it. That's how far away it is. So when you have that proximity to rehabilitation, these guys got better. And so one of the people who was in one of these nonprofits that was trying to help rehabilitate said that these guys who had life sentences were the most well-adjusted people, and they were far more stable than the people working in like the startup community, like her peers, right? Because they had been forced to go through therapy and everything else. Does that resonate with you?
Well, you had the worst prison in California state system is Pelican Bay. So that's the time I did. And that place there's been mentioned a lot of movies. They had indictments there where they were getting prisoners and making them fight, betting on it. So, them stories are true. I mean, who cares? The public is, especially the last 15 years, the public's trying to pay their bills. They don't care about what happens to a guy in a joint. They don't care. And it's sad. It's a sad situation now with the new administration coming in, the Trump administration. I am going to send some overtures to the head of the Bureau of Prisons and try to get involved as a motivation speaker. I think my story could help a lot of them. But still, we have to change the law. It's still 85% in place.
Yeah. I mean, if there's
a life sentence is life. You're dying. Right.
If there's one guy that you can maybe get in front of and convince him to do a better way, I would think for Donald Trump, for all his flaws and negative things, he does seem willing to hear ideas, and he likes Mavericks, and you're certainly of that color. You're like, hey, I was in prison for 30 plus years.
I believe in writing letters. I think letters is a lost art. Matter of fact, I had a program a few months ago in New York, and I told the audience that, writing letters is a lost art. So I'll just start writing letters and see the response I get. But I don't want to go to no low facility, soft facility. I want to go to hardcore, where I came from, and hopefully change these. They believe there's no hope, but hope is not given to you. I created my own hope, so that's the message I want to try to get these guys to create their own hope.
Yeah, that's a theme that I for sure saw with these guys. They had to believe that there was something for them, even if they never got out. They had to improve themselves, and the theme is these guys said, and these guys don't know each other. they go to prison for murder or 3 strikes, and they're never going to get out. And then right around 11 years in, they realize it's up to them.
Right.
It's their fault that they're there. They made these choices. Whether or not they were guilty of the crime, they put themselves in a situation where the crime happened. And so they're like, now I have to do something about it. And then they spent the next 10 to 15 years trying to become the person that when you sit in front of the parole board, like one of the guys, he killed a guy in a fight and did 25 years. And he said, I asked him, like, when were you ready to get out? And he said, it was the last time I sat in front of the parole board, because I had finally realized that these guys weren't my adversaries. They were my advocates. And I had always seen them as part of a system designed to keep me in here. And when I realized that they had to speak for me to say that I was not going to be a problem anymore, it changed how he approached the whole thing. And it made it so that he could get through. It's just a shame that it takes so long to do that, because now he's this wonderful, well-adjusted guy. He's done this terrible thing, but he also has spent decades atoning for it. And in a way that I think most people would say, yeah, that's the kind of person we want back in society.
Well, like I said, our system is still screwed up. All these states adapted 85%. The budgets have not grown. And I actually used to sit in budget meetings with the psychology and education department. They should write me into so I could order supplies and videos and stuff like that. But the only thing you can do is believe in yourself, number one, and keep going. That's the only thing you can do, and then something will come down. Like my last 3 months incarceration was a movie in itself. So you just got to keep going, Pete. Got to keep going. And it's hard to say that because there's very few of us become stellar, not only in your incarceration, not only in what you're doing, but unto yourself. It's very hard. It's very hard. Believe me.
Yeah. Well, I can imagine it's easy to give up too. I mean, it's easy to become hopeless.
I'm so proud of now. I have few companies now. I come out of jail with nothing. I'm the grow father. I don't know if you know that. I have this company in Jersey. It's called the Grow Father. It's doing very well, and we have a lot of jobs that we're creating. I have a beer company in Jersey called the Grow Father. Again, what I'm most proud of is I'm creating jobs. And before I kick the bucket, I hope in my legacy that I'll have 2,000-3,000 jobs forevermore for these young people.
I love it. Yeah, right. It is. How does it sit with you that we've become so permissive with marijuana, which is the thing that took 30 years of your life away from you? Now it's like, not only can you grow it, we're going to make it legal and we're going to incentivize you.
Well, that's a funny story. I was in a penitentiary and my warden came to my cell. He says, you know what? I just came back from Colorado. Colorado, I think, was the first state to go rec. And he says, all I thought it was about you. I said, why? He said, well, my wife likes that stuff. And she went into a dispensary, and all I could think about, my wife's in there buying what you're sitting in a cell doing life, no parole. And I said, well, that's good, but I'm still here. I'm still here. So it was difficult. It was real difficult. And then there was a domino effect. A few years went by, then California went, and this state went. And like now, I'm licensed in Jersey. And a lot of these states, these licenses are not cheap. They can run $1 million to $2 million. But there is in their law for licensing, nonviolent first offenders for cannabis waives the fee. So that's a lot has changed. A lot has changed for the better. But we're still not there yet. We're still not there yet.
When you're this, and not even model, but ideal inmate, someone who's in prison and has definitely rehabilitated, you're making your community better by graduating these guys to whatever programs they're in, in your advocating, and you talk to these wardens. Do they treat you differently? Are you treated better within the prison? How does
I had a lot of respect because of I graduated over 8,000 inmates in 10 years.
Right. Yeah.
That's 400 students every season of the year. But the worst thing you can do when you go to an warden I never went up to a warden unless they sent for me. And when you go up to them, you can't use the word I. You know, you could say, listen, maybe we can do this, and hopefully you can do that. Because guess what? If these wardens think you're going to outshine them, it's very simple. 3 o'clock in the morning, your cell door is going to crack. They're going to put you on a bus somewhere. So you have to be very smart unto yourself. So I did a lot of accomplishments, but I never took credit. Never took credit. Always like the
But
warden.
those guys know it, though. Do they acknowledge it? I mean, when they
Wardens
see
knew
you
that.
graduated.
Wardens knew that. They gave me in other words, you're my buddy, and you had a bad day, so you went and had a few drink. You know, they make booze in jail.
Yeah.
And you knock the guy out. Now you're in the hole. So that's where I got my. I go to the warden and say, "Listen, Pete's a good guy. Come on, give him a second chance." So, and I always got that. So I had a lot of my own personal power, but I used it in the right light.
And then your peers who are in prison with you, they leave you alone at some point because, you know, you're a greater good and they want you around. That's my assumption.
Well, you know, Pete, the Lord looked out for me in mysterious ways. I was a nonviolent first offender. I went to the worst prison Marion, Illinois is known to man, the worst prison. You had all the big shot callers there, the Alien Brotherhood, Mexican Mafia, Black Guerrilla Movement, etc. So they became my buddies. So when I left there, unbeknownst to me, I had all this power. When I went to the institution, words were simplest. I had the mob behind me. I had all this power, but I used it in the right light, not the wrong. I had all this power. So, and that's what it is. You just, all I can tell you, listen, I used to tell my students, there's always tomorrow. I used to tell my students, I must have said that a zillion times, there's always tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's always tomorrow.
What did you learn from your students? I mean, you obviously picked up a lot from the process of teaching. What did you learn? Well,
I never took more than 25 in my class, but you're not going to waste my time. I was very stringent with that. I'm dying in here, but I'm trying to get you home. Don't come and make a fool out of me in my classroom. And I was very serious with that. If I see you there just to waste my time, you know, at the end of the class, I talk you out in horses. Don't come back. Don't come back. So I did a lot. Some of them went on to be professionals, had businesses. Matter of fact, I got to go down to Fort Lauderdale soon. One of the guys I left my class, one of my creative writing classes, got published. He's doing very well, so I want to see him. You just got to you get up and you go on. You know, you don't get up and do drugs. You don't get up and drink. You don't get up and gamble. You know, you take care of yourself physically, which I did, and try to get the best food you can so you can. I never hardly went to the chow hall. For 15 years, I never set foot. Matter of fact, for 15 years, I ate out of the same bowl. What the hell it was made out of. And when I knew I was getting out, I carved my name in the GM in the bottom of the bowl, and I gave it to a buddy. Yeah. And I says, listen, this bowl, when you're full of with food, when you eat down, you see my initials, that's hope. So keep eating till you see my initials.
What were your favorite things to eat when you were locked up?
I ate basically once a day. I used to get my food out of the back door in the chow hall, just hearty stews and things like that.
Just once a day, though.
Yeah, I lived by myself. One of my was adamant about. I used to tell the wardens, "Listen, I'm going to do an awful lot for you. You're going to take all the credit, but I like to be by myself because I used to have so much paperwork for my classes. I was up to 7 classes, so you got pre-tests and post-tests. So, and I had these files. I used to tell the warden, "Come in. Where am I going to put another guy?" You have me doing all these classes. Where am I going to put another guy? So that was good for me. Most of those 32 plus years, I was by myself. So,
but not in solitary. You were there to have a workspace. You worked from home.
Yeah.
Let's say that one of your letters lands in the right spot, and the boss calls. Donald Trump calls and says, "Hey, I want you to come tell me what we need to be doing with our prison system." And he gives you 5 minutes, right? He's a businessman. He wants to hear from you. What are your pitches? Like, what are the 2 or 3 things that you would have him change?
Well, what I would most be adamant about is to be looked at. Once you get a life sentence or you get 100 years, that you can't be looked at anymore. So I want to at least have a 5 to 10 year window where they can look at you. If you have life or you have 100 years, you're not the same person. Yeah. An individual always needs to be looked at, whether if he's a third offender, second offender. Look at the guy. Have anybody visited his record? Anybody talked to the people that in the prison? That's not in place today. That's what I'd be very adamant about. An individual deserves to be looked at and see where he's at, where he's been doing. So that's what I would really push for.
And so what else? I mean, okay, that's good. Make sure that nobody's got a permanent life with no parole. Like, take a look at them. What else?
Well, I wanted the prisons have no say at all where they can help you come home. There's no say. The only thing a warden can do is put in for compassionate release, but that really hasn't go much anywhere. But you have to get the people that have been watching you all these years, the people that work in these prisons, to have a board there. Okay, a board that, and in prison there's what's the right word, around the country there's circuits, different sections that they have their own offices, whether it's northeast, southeast, southwest. They're called regional offices, and these regional offices could have the power to look at you, bring you to a board, and then what you recommend, send that to the judge. That's what I'd love to have, a place, these regional boards, where they can look at the individual.
And is there anything else that you would say we need to change this? So we give prisons a say, we have this increased look at people policies. Or one more thing that you'd like to add to improve the prison system?
Well, bring back college courses. That's still not in place. They took away the Pell Grants. It's still not in place. Definitely bring back the Pell Grants. That's number one. Because not only that, when you get these college professors coming in and they're teaching you, they're graduating you, you have a rapport. And that individual could write a letter and help you. We don't have that anymore. We don't have that anymore. You're not going to get a letter from a Bureau of Prisons worker to help you until his probably retirement. They're not going to write a letter to jeopardize their career because they don't know if you're going to get out and rob a bank and kill somebody.
Yeah.
So they never get involved. They don't. Yeah. There's so much readjustment that has to be done. There's so much. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I created the skills program, and I created reentry in America. It took years and years and years.
Yeah.
But it's still there's no parole. There's no parole board. They never brought that back. You have to do 85% of your time. The Biden administration didn't address one thing. These 1,500 pardons he done on computations. That is good, but I don't know the individual's cases. I don't know that.
Right. Well, listen, I appreciate you coming on the show. Everybody should go check out the movie. It's down below in that link. George is, it's incredible to talk to folks who've been something like
Life Without Parole, the George Martorano story, ladies and on Venimo.com on demand. It's an amazing, award-winning film. Very award-winning film.
Yeah.
By a very, very great film crew.
I love it. Well, man, thanks for coming on. I'm going to roll the credits, everything else. Otherwise, thank you very much. And everybody else, I'll see you tomorrow. George, I'll be right back to say goodbye to you.
Hey, thanks for watching the show. I really appreciate it. Right here, you can subscribe. Please do that. It makes the show grow. Hit that notification bell so you know which incredible guest is coming up next. Down below is the PayPal link. You can put a small subscription in. That is an enormous help. All that money goes right back into the show. And then right up over here are the next episodes you should listen to, curated by yours truly.